News!
Okay, we'll start with this. Fresh on the heels of his big win over former champion Yordenis Ugas, Mario Barrios' trainer, Bob Santos, is interested in a Jaron Ennis showdown. And I don't think he would have the luck with Jaron Ennis that he just had with Ugas. Mario Barrios is about challenges, Santos told the Boxing Voice during a recent interview. That's what he's been about since day one. That's why he took on Gervonta Davis. That's why he took on Keith Thurman at 147 right away. He's about challenges.
Get knocked the fuck out if he fought Ennis.
It's not a nice way for me to say that. There's no easy way to say, I think if you fight this guy puts you in the hospital. And I ain't gonna sugarcoat it.
What for? That's what I think would happen. There's no nice way for me to say that.
When you get knocked out by a 135-pounder at 140, when you face a quasi-retired Keith Thurman, a Keith Thurman who hadn't boxed in about 2 years, and you lose the both of those fights. Under those circumstances, you'll excuse me for saying so, you're not going to elicit much faith from people. And just because you fought a former champion, coming off a loss, and over a year of inactivity, recovering from eye surgery, I believe that Ugas had a fractured orbital bone from the Spence fight well over a year ago. When you beat that guy...
I mean, what was Ugas' claim to fame? Fighting an over-the-hill, past his prime Manny Pacquiao that hadn't fought in 2 years?
I didn't read much into Mario's victory over Yordenis Ugas, and before you say that this is just a case of sour grapes, I picked Mario to win that fight. I picked Mario to win that fight on the predication that Ugas really isn't on the level. His best win, the highlight of his career, is beating an over-the-hill, past his prime, inactive Manny Pacquiao. And in all likelihood, Mario's going to stick him. Mario's going to get him. He's going to beat Ugas because Ugas was never that good to begin with.
As stated, Ugas' claim to fame is beating an over-the-hill, past his prime, inactive Manny Pacquiao, and Mario's highlight of his career is beating an over-the-hill, past his prime, inactive Yordenis Ugas. So what do you want me to say?
You want I should say that Mario would be competitive against Jaron Boots Ennis? Do you want me to lie? Because I would have to. That's what I'd be doing if I told you that I think Mario stands a chance with Boots.
He doesn't. I think Boots puts him in the hospital. I think Giovanni Santillán puts him in the hospital.
That's what I think. Bob Santos, Mario Barrios' trainer, what he thinks is, right now, everybody says Boots is one of the most feared guys in the division. He's a talented guy. I think he's one of the best in the division. He needs an opportunity to fight a big-name guy. What better guy would that be than Mario Barrios? At this time, the PBC doesn't have a broadcast partner. Not officially. Not yet. There are rumors about a pay-per-view distribution deal with Amazon. More recent rumors about the PBC jumping into bed with Netflix. All of it matters.
All of it. Because Mario Barrios, he's a PBC fighter, and Jaron Boots Ennis, he isn't.
What I think a lot of people didn't realize is just because Jaron Boots Ennis was fighting on PBC shows, that didn't make him a PBC fighter. That was a byproduct of Bozy Ennis, Jaron Ennis, and Cameron Duncan's relationship with Showtime. He was a Showtime fighter, not a PBC fighter. But now that Showtime is out of boxing, we don't know what he is. We don't know where he goes. Does he now form an alliance with Al Heyman?
No.
Does he now go into business with him?
We don't know.
No. I'm not saying that he won't. I'm saying we don't know. But I feel that in order to gain access to Mario Barrios, who is a PBC fighter, in order to have a fight with him, Heyman's gonna want options on Jaron Boots Ennis. And I don't know how Cameron Duncan feels about that. Does he want to share him?
Is he willing to? Does he see enough in the PBC stable that he's willing to share his fighter with Al Heyman, or does he take him to some other platform, some other promotional outfit like Top Rank, a Matchroom, a Golden Boy? I don't know.
Boots' situation has always been unique. Here you have a fighter that isn't a PBC fighter fighting on PBC shows on the premise of his fealty to Showtime. Showtime Boxing that now doesn't exist. Showtime Boxing that is pretty much kaput after this year. So what's the next move? Does Cameron Duncan auction Boots off to Al Heyman to see what he can do for him, or do they go somewhere else? Your guess is as good as mine, though I feel in order for Boots to gain access to Mario, he would have to enter some kind of arrangement with Al Heyman.
Al is gonna want options on that guy to gain access to Mario. Al's gonna want options on that guy. It's a standard practice.
Like how Frank Warren now has options on Zile Zhang. To Zhang, to gain access to Joe Joyce in the first place, he had to enter into an arrangement to where even if he wins the fight, wins it 2 times, Frank Warren would still have options on him. I think the same would apply to Jaron Boots Ennis. The question is, if you Boots Ennis and Bozy Ennis and Cameron Duncan, and you see that the PBC doesn't have a broadcast partner right now,
Right.
you see that Showtime's out of it,
Right.
and they're shopping themselves around.
Is now a good time to jump into bed with the PBC? Amazon distribution rumors, Netflix rumors, though nothing official. Nothing yet.
Do you want to jump into bed with these people now, or do you wait a while longer? See these rumors out, see it through, see where they land, then decide if you want to do business with them. I don't have a doubt in my mind that Jaron Boots Ennis would beat the crap out of Mario Barrios if you made that fight. He'd beat him from pillar to post. He'd beat him up and down that ring. He'd beat him if they fought. But before any of that even comes into it,
Before that,
who pays for the fight?
the money.
Because the money to pay for it has got to come from somewhere, and at this time, neither Jaron Boots Ennis or Al Heyman's PBC have a broadcast partner. So where would the money to pay the fighters and pay for the fight, where would it be coming from? That's a pretty important detail, wouldn't you say? So, all of that's got to get sorted out.
All of it.
And just in keeping with the theme of all things PBC, Jermall Charlo, WBC middleweight champion Jermall Charlo, on facing Jose Benavidez Jr., it's been a long road. Only the strong survive. Many would say that the only reason that Jermall has survived is because he hasn't been fighting. He hasn't been active.
2.5 years of inactivity and brazen chicanery by way of the WBC have helped to extend Jermall Charlo's reign as a champion when by all rights they should have stripped him a long time ago, or at minimum labeled him a champion in recess. That if something is happening outside of the ring, preventing him from getting back into it, you shouldn't allow him to hold the title hostage the whole time.
And now he's fighting Jose Benavidez, a guy who used to campaign as a welterweight. Jose Benavidez, who says, I've been working hard and feeling strong and getting ready to take him out. Jose is catching Jermall Charlo at a very opportune time.
Yes.
It would be catastrophic for what remains of Jermall Charlo's career if he doesn't manage to seal the deal against Jose Benavidez, or if he looks lackluster, if he looks less than spectacular. Put simply, anything less than a knockout for Jermall.
I mean, think about it. Jose has been knocked out before. He was knocked out 2 divisions south of middle at welter by Terrence Crawford, a naturally smaller man than Jermall. So if Jermall, who's bigger and he's supposed to be stronger, if he can't take out Jose, then what does that say about Jermall?
I have no reason to give Jermall Charlo a pass for underperforming and failing to knock out Jose Benavidez, even under these circumstances. That's what that would be. And I can't give him a pass for underperforming because this is precisely what hurts the sport. The chicanery from the WBC allowing Jermall Charlo to hang on to that belt, leave it in limbo for 2.5 years when it could have been in circulation, perhaps could have been unified. Instead, you'd prefer he hold on to it while not defending it altogether. This is what hurts the sport. Fighters like Jermall. And I've no reason to do him any special favors because he's had enough of those.
Better knock this fucking guy out because he's been knocked out before. He got knocked out by a guy who's smaller than you. So you ain't got no excuses.
We start throwing pity parties for guys who are raking in anywhere in between 6 and 7 figures for a fight. When did we start doing that? Why is that normal now? Jermall's personal problems are his fucking problems.
Any other profession, if whatever your personal problems are impede you from doing that job for a year, 2 years, 2.5 years, you know what happens?
What?
You ain't got that job no more.
So it goes for us regular Joes that ain't raking in 6 and 7 figures at a time like Charlo has in previous instances. No, I ain't got no sympathy or excuses to make for him. By all rights, he shouldn't be a champion now. I don't care what kind of problems he's got. This is what has caused the middleweight division.
This used to be a hot weight class.
Used to be, before Canelo moved up and Gennady moved on. Al Heyman.
That guy.
Al Heyman's got 2 champions at this weight, and you see the state of it. That's not a coincidence. Thus, on the undercard of the upcoming Benavidez versus Andre fight, where Charlo will be boxing Jose Benavidez, a guy who used to campaign as a welterweight. The least you could do, the very fucking least you could do, is knock that guy out.
Gonna lower the standard for that guy. That's the problem. That's the fucking problem.
You want that I should lower the bar of standard for Jermall and his personal problems? It's so personal, interpersonal. I'll tell you what.
What?
If you can't knock out a Jose Benavidez, maybe you don't belong on television. Maybe broadcasters should not pay fritter money away on your boxing matches when you can't put away a Jose Benavidez. So you damn well better knock him out.
Better knock him out.
That's what you better do. Otherwise, why should a broadcaster waste money on you? You can't even put away a Jose Benavidez. It's not gonna lower the bar of standard for Charlo. Quality control is a real thing, and it has been an issue for the PBC on Showtime for the longest time, which is why Showtime is now leaving the sport of boxing.
They got this guy as the co-main event of the pay-per-view. A guy that ain't boxed in 2.5 years.
For what is a layup fight. This is the co-main event that leads into the main event. $80 for this. You better kill this guy quick. You get him out of there. You get him all the way the fuck out of there. Or maybe you don't belong on television no more. And it's that simple. And finally, Tyson Fury's old buddy, Billy Joe Saunders, says, if Tyson was a fraction of his former self, Ngannou would not have landed a glove on him. Is he now implying that Tyson Fury is on the slide? And what we saw 2 weekends ago was slippage. From round 1, I knew he was going to have a tough fight, Saunders told Talk Sport Boxing. I know Tyson inside and out. If Tyson was a fraction of himself, Ngannou wouldn't have landed a glove on him. After the final bell sounded, Fury waited anxiously to hear how the 3 judges sitting ringside scored it. Sweat may have formed on his palms, but Fury managed to leave the ring with his championship status intact. In truth, it was never on the line to begin with. WBC title wasn't on the line, but Tyson Fury's reputation, that was.
And that took a hit.
From Saunders' point of view, he isn't arguing with the final decision, although some vehemently believe Ngannou did enough to win. Saunders spent some time reminding fans of a key factor. Look, of course Billy Joe Saunders is going to agree that Tyson Fury won the fight. Of course he's going to go up to bat for his old buddy. The reality of it is,
whether he did enough to win the fight or not, or Ngannou did enough to win the fight or not, that's not the point. The point is that he looked bad. He didn't look like a world champion should look opposite the ring of novice. So is that slippage? Is Tyson Fury now in decline? It's not the first time I've heard that.
Saunders continued, you couldn't argue which way it went. It was very, very close, but don't forget, Tyson is the champion, and Ngannou is in Tyson's house. Well, if it's so close that you couldn't argue which way it went, then the damage is done, regardless of how the judges score it. Because the basic idea here is, if Tyson Fury is who he says he is, then it shouldn't be so close you can't call it.
In the subsequent days that have followed that fight, I've heard it said more and more that Tyson Fury is in decline and he's slipping, though in truth, some content creators, at least one that I know of, they were already saying that before that fight.
Sport Icon said it at least a few months ago, maybe a year, that he feels that Tyson Fury is slipping, that his legs aren't what they were a few years ago in the first Deontay Wilder fight. And we have reason to believe that.
We do, because that was 5 years ago, and Tyson Fury doesn't take care of himself. You see how he balloons in weight between fights and how he treats his nose. Let's not beat around the bush. This guy's a cokehead.
It's almost like they want him to be some kind of Babe Ruth archetype, some kind of Babe Ruth kind of character, to where he's slamming down beers the night before a big game, in this instance treating his nose before a big fight or in between fights, and there ain't gonna be no consequences because of how talented he is. Though it could be catching up. The chickens could be finally coming home to roost because Tyson doesn't take care of himself himself in between fights. He has an unhealthy lifestyle, unhealthy habits. Look at how he's built. Most of the weight on Tyson Fury's body is in the trunk, and his legs, they're not particularly big. He's carrying a lot of weight on what are not big legs.
Years and years of rounds, years and years of boxing matches, training camps, it could all catch up for a guy who's built like that in his late 30s. That Tyson Fury could be slipping is plausible.
That's why you have to be a consummate professional. That's why you have to be a consummate athlete to extend your shelf life, because boxers have a very small window to start making money, big money, like Tyson Fury. And if that window is beginning to close for Tyson Fury, it's his own fault.
No, you cannot outrun Father Time. Sooner or later, he is going to catch up, but you don't help your own situation treating your body the way that you do.
Maybe I am being hard on Tyson Fury, because the idea that he's slipping still seems like a poor excuse to me for him having looked the way that he looked with Francis Ngannou. My expectation is that a world champion, a sitting champion, not just a guy who used to have a belt, but a guy who still has one, he's supposed to be able to create clear separation between himself and a novice, as Tyson Fury in that situation would be the expert.
He didn't look like an expert, though he could be slipping. I don't dismiss that.
But I don't immediately accept it either. A young Tyson Fury, much younger than today's, was floored by Nevin Pajcik, wasn't he? Nevin Pajcik laid a glove on him. Steve Cunningham laid a glove on him. Wilder did 4 times.
He could be slipping, like Billy is implying, though he doesn't need to be to get knocked on his ass, because he's been knocked on his ass before that started.
Which brings me back to what I've been telling you in my previous videos. Perhaps it's time that all of you out there reevaluate what you think about Tyson Fury. What you think you know is him getting knocked down by somebody is not an isolated incident. That didn't all of a sudden just start happening. It's been happening his whole career.
Thus, when you tell me he's slipping, I feel so inclined to agree, but that's not the only reason he stunk out the joint 2 Saturdays ago. Not the only reason.